Listen.
Damn it. Looks like I just got fed up all the malarkey.
So it's the beginning of the Kang dynasty, and a new Marvel phase that's introducing the biggest bad guy so far. And I've seen what they did with the last one, so I know that no matter how bumpy it gets, the Endgame's gonna be pretty good. And with Jonathan Majors at the helm, man, I'm all in. Is Marvel gonna make me wait 7 years just to figure out why Kang looked left? Yes, but I trust him so much as an actor that I know he's gonna deliver one of the best cinematic characters of all time. Still, y'all couldn't pick a different movie to start with? No matter what timeline or variant, I really have tried my hardest, but there is no multiverse where I'm a fan of these Antman movies. Each of these movies feels like they make you leave your house to go to a restaurant, only for you to come home and you're still hungry. I remember these getting dissed for being the flavor of the week by another filmmaker. Man, it's a daily horoscope. I've marveled at what they've taken in previous films, but I'm glad that people are finally noticing even faster. And sure, yeah, they're supposed to be family films, so you're gonna get like a minion butt that's thrown at you. You'll have goofy characters who just mention holes.
Yeah, that's right.
But look, I don't want to say that these movies put the ants in cans, but I really thought this would be the one.
Well, you figured wrong.
The first half had some decent jokes, but then the turns it takes brings it almost lower than the quantum realm. And I had heard about these test screenings where they were split about how they were going to handle the comedy and all the dark, serious bits, and considering the reshoots, sounds like they cut to one of those. So unless you're curious for the IMAX, I'd say wait till Disney Plus so that the VFX patches can kick in.
Look at that. If this is blowing your mind, which I'm sure it is, just wait till you see Antman and the Wasp Quantumania. It's this kind of stuff times 5.
Let me explain.
You guys paying attention?
What?
So previously on Antman, we have 5 appearances from him. The first one begins in 1985 with a quick jump scare that shows a young Hank Pym who's denying S.H.I.E.L.D. his particle technology.
As long as I am alive, nobody will ever get that formula.
Well, years later, he drives up to his own tech building where his ID is his literal portrait in the lobby. We meet his daughter, his colleagues who still want his particles, and his protege who's always been curious about this myth of a tiny superhero with nanotechnology.
An Antman.
So once he figures it out, Darren crosses him, and not even for the betterment of mankind, it's just so he can change the name on the outside of the building. He presents the Yellow Jacket technology, which of course he wants to militarize.
War.
And just like that, he's wiping his enemies and literally flushing them down the toilet. So he really comes off as a man organically designed only for killing. He even sees Hope as being just like him, living in Pop's shadow. So he wants to pull a succession and wants her to vote her dad out of the company.
I saw myself.
Why did you push me away?
Meanwhile, on the side, is our main character. The first time we see Scott Lang, he's getting beat up in prison, and then the next scene, he's getting fired by Baskin-Robbins, so by the time he goes on a heist, you're kind of rooting for him to get a win.
Oh.
Yeah, my mom died too. And my dad got deported. But I got the van.
In his crew, there's Louise, who's a really good friend and was even there to pick him up from jail. His van even makes an appearance into Endgame. There's Kurt, the computer wizard, and Dave, the getaway driver, who helps him to not leave a paper trail. But it's his relationship with his daughter that really makes the trilogy. Yet he can't even visit her since his ex-Maggie is sick of his Arrested Development. She's also dating an officer named Paxton, which leaves Scott to do the only thing that he seems fit: rob a house. The twist is that he doesn't even realize it's a setup. Pretty much Hank dupes him into breaking in as a sort of audition because he needs him for a side job, and after revisiting his jail cell, he agrees to the job as he tests out the shrinking technology. He ends up waking up in Pym Manor, where the ants are so trained they're gone in one frame and then appear in the next. But these two are pretty much betting on this man like he's Job.
Scott, I've been watching you for a while.
The plan is to retrieve Hank's technology from the lab, so he starts by training this schmuck from scratch, even though Hank's own daughter is overly qualified.
Absolutely not.
This impossible mission also ends up being a trap since Darren's double-crossing them again as he's making deals with Hydra.
They're not what they were. They're doing some interesting work.
Hope wants to blame it on the particles, but they end up getting in a scuffle as everyone scrambles, and Hank had given them these Beyblades earlier that allowed them to shrink when they use the red one and enlarge when they use a little blue one.
Hey, are we the good guys?
Yeah.
We're the good guys, man.
Yeah, we're the good guys.
They fight in the vents, a helicopter, and even a train set. Since Darren is so evil, he decided to take the fight into Cassie's room.
I want my daddy!
I want your daddy too.
In the end, he's able to shrink the enemy out of this movie as they turn Thomas into a bullet train, Hope reconciles with her father, and Lang reunites with his family, making them a Fantastic Four. In Civil War, he just absolutely steals the show, joining Captain America's side, meaning he goes from fighting with Falcon to fighting with Falcon.
Pym always said you never can trust a Stark.
Who are you?
Come on, man.
In my opinion, this isn't just his biggest appearance that he's had to date. I personally think it's one of the best supporting roles in a Marvel movie ever. is complete and utter filler.
So boring.
In this one, Scott's in trouble for starring in Civil War, so Agent Wu is hounding Lang because of his shortcomings.
I'm in the middle of trying to steal something with my daughter.
We also had the continuation of the after credits scene from the first one.
But now I realize that we were working on it for you.
Now, in the first movie, Hank let us know that him and Janet went on a secret mission where she sacrificed herself by going subatomic to stop a bomb. So here, Hank lets us know that him and Janet went on a secret mission where she sacrificed herself by going subatomic to stop a bomb.
Your mother convinced me to let her join me on my missions. They called her the Wasp.
That's when Scott has a vision about Janet, so they drug him and bring him over to the new lab where they built a tunnel that's meant to connect to the quantum realm.
We think when you were down there, you may have entangled with her.
Hank, I would never do that. I respect you too much.
In between all this, they're having scuffles with a black market salesman who's helping them build their tech.
And you can forget nanotech, forget AI, forget cryptocurrency. Quantum energy is the future.
As they also face a new antagonist named Ghost, who single-handedly ruined their plans. She's the daughter of an ex-partner of Hank who died when an experiment went wrong, causing Ava to go through quantum phasing, meaning she's glitching through stuff all the time, but it's not like her character's gonna come into play after this one.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
Hope and Hank crank and hope that their tunnel experiment will work as Janet takes over Scott's body, turning him from a cat burglar to a cat woman.
Clever girl. I'm so proud of you.
They shoot out a connection to her coordinates as Scott dips to secure the security deal that he needs to get. And they get mad at him for trying to keep his job. Like, if y'all ain't hiring him and the Avengers aren't hiring him, then honestly, he should stop fighting with Falcon and unionize. Scott is able to dupe Jimmy Woo again. Hank and Hope end up in jail. Scott helps them escape through Ant GPS. Scott calls Luis to help. And you get a pretty decent car chase that goes nano.
I wish I had a suit. Or maybe even just a suit with no powers.
The bad guys get pezzed, Scott goes toe-to-toe with a toe, and Luis pimps his ride in order to come in and save the day. While all that's happening, Hank takes a ship to the quantum realm, where he's able to locate his wife Janet and return safely without passing Antman 3 spoilers.
I'm not the same woman I was 30 years ago, Henry.
In the end, the bad guys are able to become the good guys by beating the bad guys. As they secure their deal, Hank and Janet set up a beachfront with no plumbing, and they're all able to clean up San Francisco before Shang-Chi happens.
Ha ha, very funny. Guys, okay, seriously, don't joke around. Bring me up, let's go.
So after getting stuck in the quantum realm when everyone snapped, Mickey comes in and helps them escape.
Sorry, that must have been a very long 5 years.
Yeah, but that's just it. It wasn't. For me, it was 5 hours.
So if the 3 years from jail wasn't enough, here's another 5 that he's been gone from his daughter, who didn't disappear with Thanos' snap. Just the actress did.
Time works differently in the quantum realm. The only problem is right now, we don't have a way to navigate it. But what if we did?
Scott helps the Avengers time travel back in time to retrieve the Infinity Stones. He stands tall and ready on the front lines versus Thanos, and even hotwires himself into victory as he becomes eternally known as a true American hero.
Flick me.
Listen, everybody knows that these MCU stars are eating more calories than there are multiverses, but when it comes to your average Scott Lang without the ant suit, ain't nobody got the time or money to get as swole as Kang. But thanks to this video sponsor, you can eat some good food while you watch a workout. Hungry Root is a grocery delivery service that helps prep all of your meals from breakfast, lunch, and dinner using tech that's better than Pimps in order to help you personalize your taste as it adapts with your every order. You start by choosing your eating preferences through their online quiz. You're able to set how many and when you want your meals delivered. You can swap items, snacks, record any allergens. But my favorite part is being able to try new recipes and having the ability to customize every order. They even encourage you to get creative with whatever you may have in your kitchen. And sometimes the packages do come with a little more than the recipe asks for, so they do let you experiment. That way you can spend less time prepping, shopping, and cooking and get to the main course faster with Hungry Root. So if you're interested, the first 100 people to use my code LetMeExplain40 are going to get 40% off your first grocery order with Hungry Root. All you have to do is use the link in the description or go to hungryroot.com and use code LetMeExplain40 to get 40% off.
Right. So anyway,
now it's Quantumania, which is the third Ant-Man flick and the 31st movie in the MCU, where a supervillain from the 31st century faces a superhero who scoops up 31 flavors. So know that from here on out, it's going to be full spoilers. But don't worry, Kang doesn't come until like an hour in.
An hour? We don't have an hour.
So the story begins with Scott doing a press tour for his new book that is supposed to be the Avengers' official retelling of the Infinity War. I just don't know why they picked him. They had him promoting it on Miss Marvel's podcast. It's popped up on the news. But I didn't realize that they actually had this available for pre-order.
His very real book
As a third in the trilogy, it's really trying to prop up the family aspect of it, which is why they decided to recast the daughter from the previous movies and even got rid of his entire crew.
Oh, we can handle it. We're professionals.
Honestly, Louise should have done the audiobook. Now, director Peyton Reed worked on Back to the Future, so he homages it in the family pizza scene here, where Hank drops his PMMOs on a small pie to make it a family size, since I guess the book sales and being employee of the century weren't enough.
I just saved $8.
In that same dinner scene, the family gangs up on Scott worse than they did in prison because they're belittling him for going on tour and not, like, finding another Thanos to fight, which I think is kind of, like, crazy. Can you imagine fighting an Endgame to bring back your loved ones, and then they still expect more from you? I would have snapped.
I literally saved the world.
Thank you, Spider-Man.
Hope is not working to save the city's problems with PIM particles since they completely and utterly destroyed it in the last one. Meanwhile, Cassie's been to jail twice due to her activism, which kind of tracks since previously she tampered with the FBI.
Are you trying to find my daddy?
Yeah, I am, sweetheart.
Hope you don't catch him. Why can't you just leave my daddy alone?
Oh, Cassie.
You?
Don't laugh.
You know, if I had something like this when you were gone, then I could have found you.
Cassie's built a satellite to explore the quantum realms, and she spent 5 years reading Hank's journals and is worried that, going missing runs in the family. Personally, I just felt bad for Hope in this scene because she spent her whole life working on what Cassie just made in the basement.
And then my character's really cool. She's super messy and not perfect, and she's got a great team around her.
God, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, to be a messy superhero.
Yeah!
So you've been studying the quantum realm.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you ask me about it?
Ma'am, your daughter did. You just shut her down. Now, I don't know how they accidentally built this subatomic telescope in the house without another scientist knowing, but once they flip the switch, it leads to all of them getting sucked in and ending up in Disney's Strange World. Pretty much these subatomic layers are meant to be a secret universe beneath theirs, so it's like those tow commercials where they magnify in. Scott and Cassie end up in their own, and after fighting a flying spaghetti monster, come across some quantum people who've been displaced from their homes because of this evil dude named Kang. And since they're literally the little guy and are houseless, they decide to help.
He will burn the world to find you.
They end up giving everyone in the movie this ooze so that they can communicate with each other down there, but it was interesting to find out that the character of Vev was actually mocapped and voiced by David Dastmalchian, so at least someone from the crew snuck in.
Hello.
Chidi's also in the quantum place and can read minds.
How many holes do you have?
Yeah, 7 holes.
Yeah, that's right.
The town then gets attacked and they go on what, no lie, feels like a NASCAR race, because I swear they were running in circles around the volume for what feels like 5 minutes. The ships are shooting bullets in a straight line, but it's always hitting the side of the characters. Even after an hour, it turns out that Cassie had a suit this whole time.
You have a suit? Wait, you have a suit?
Okay, I have a suit.
Yeah, I noticed.
We then have Janet, Hope, and Hank who continue these pointless meetups that Marvel's been loving recently. They'll create the zany world for no reason and have these ships that'll split down the middle just to do a goofier formation than the Chiefs, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just there to fake out the audience, but then you're just wondering, why isn't Janet telling her family who's good or bad?
The people who were supposed to deliver the dirt accidentally delivered dirt with manure in it.
Yeah, it was manure.
Cow.
If you look at Paul and Kathryn in that scene, you may be able to sort of suss out, imagine what that smelled like. It was pretty unpleasant.
So it was crappier than I thought. They go to a bar to get some information, and even though Rudd's been selling 0% alcohol in the ads for this movie, Hank needs something to get him through the movie.
Our place in the galaxy. Holy that guy looks like broccoli.
Damn, how much did the writers have? We then meet Bill Murray's character, who's pretty much Zap Brannigan from Futurama, and it turns out he's got an up close and personal with Janet when they were freedom fighters. That is until Bill went elite.
Wild stuff.
Easy, honey. Wow.
You mentioned my wife again.
Turns out everyone knows who Janet is because she kind of led a lot of people to die. So she kind of takes over the movie and gives an LME to her side of the story. She breaks down her quantum flashback and how a man with a scarred face crash landed near her. She sadly didn't have Disney Plus, so she didn't realize that he was Kang the Conqueror who takes out timelines, and that the reason his multiversal ship got stranded there was because the other versions of Kang banished him to a place that has no space or time. That said, he is a good actor, so he's able to convince Janet that he can return her to see her daughter.
No, I don't want you to go.
Once the ship's fixed though, she touches it, and because it's neurokinetic, she's able to get an entire recap of all of the past, present, and future conquering that Kang's done, and realizes he's like the new blue Thanos.
Kang can shatter existence.
In the last minute, she busts a cord to his ship and leaves him stranded, but not before he gets his super suit. But then she decides to skip the most exciting part of the story. She's literally like, yeah, he has his 31st century tech, built an empire, and I hid in the trenches for decades. But I don't want to bore you. They escape the cantina after an attack as Hank drives away in this new ship with a grip he hasn't had since the 80s.
What a ride.
Got it.
Woo! Honestly, those tentacled houses also look pretty funny, not to mention that the soundtrack titles were kind of sketched. I just can't get over how these look like a viral Twitter ad.
A steering wheel that doesn't fly off your hand while you're driving.
Now, of course, I need to mention the similarities because, they may be subatomic, but they had the same gun designs from other guns out there in the galaxy. You don't just have prequel cantinas in this, but you have, like, Kang's Clone Wars soldiers. I don't think it's escaping the Dune allegations. They damn near brought up the Sky People, but boy, do they need to cut Robert Rodriguez a check. I mean, down to the variants.
Who are you people? We are you.
We eventually meet MODOK, who ends up being Darren from the first movie, who, after getting squished like Jordan did by the Monstars, was Anakin'd into becoming this killing machine, and he's actually the one who sucked them down there. And boy, did he look ugly. He looked like a fan art poster of the whale. His face somehow looked wider than Lord Farquaad's. Like, I love the part where Kang comes in and he just chokes him out, telling him to not speak when he's in the room.
Kang, hello.
Then we have Kang. Majors is clearly the best performance in the movie. Second would be the audience, who has to believe what's happening on screen for 2 hours. And they really must be banking on this thing being really funny in the future because it makes no sense. Like, it has to be that we'll eventually see how bad he's going to be and all the destruction. That we'll come back to this first movie appearance and hear Scott say he made a big mistake and it's going to be hilarious because of everything that he's conquered. In the meantime, you haven't showed us anything that he's conquered. Like, he's walking into the scene looking all menacing, forgetting which Avengers he's killed, talking like there's an extra space between each word, and then they do this?
You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types.
Terrible writing. Like, y'all really took an old interview meme and used that to undercut your villain for a bit?
I ruined the moment, didn't I?
Yes, you did, yes.
After all that, Kang kidnaps Cassie in order to force Scott into retrieving his Powerball, hoping he gets lucky, but Scott's palms start to get so sweaty, he literally turns into his mom's spaghetti, all while Darren eggs him on to not become Schrodinger's cat.
I'm a cat burglar. You mean you're a pussy?
Hope saves him in the last second as Hank flies in to scoop them up, reuniting the cast for like 5 minutes before they all get split up again. MODOK fights with Hank.
Thought I saw something in him, a son I never had, perhaps.
Then he aborts mission and crashes as Kang swats Antman and the Wasp and then kidnaps Janet so that they can act in their own scene. Honestly, when you look at everything that he's working with in this movie, they're giving him nothing yet he's carrying it. He's giving it his all like he's an Othello, while the rest of the cast looks like they're waiting for lunch. So to find out that he was coming up with some of the lines on his own?
Yeah, and I do it during rehearsal, so I'm pretty warm and I'm, we're going, and line comes out, I am Kang. Just pops out. I am Kang! That day, it was on.
I was going to ask you about that because there's that great line, time is a cage.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
One, I love that you love that line because that line was made up on the day.
Oh, really? By you?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all better give him more writing credits than y'all did Chloe Zhao. After falling down, Hank's aunts use their basic instincts to communicate through his earwig, as they've aged so fast down there that they've helped rebuild his ship. Poor man thought it was the ooh speaking to him.
We had a deal.
Kang promised he'd return Janet to her daughter, but then eventually we see he couldn't even return Lang's daughter to him, which leads to their final fight. Cassie goes to rescue that ripped lady from, the raid games and is able to defeat these fully trained quantum soldiers no problem. She then hacks Kang's 31st century tech in his own domain.
There was one day I ran through a set with these big explosions and they did not tell me that the walls were gonna come down like that and the fire was gonna happen like that. And I did it. And I was like, they were like, if we had told you what was gonna happen, you probably wouldn't have done it, so.
Everyone comes in to save the day after hearing Cassie's message. Feb gets his holes, and both Langs go supersize in order to take down the ship. But what's funny is that technically, they're still tinier than an ant.
I feel like I'm hugging Godzilla.
In the last act, Darren realizes that he can decide to be a man, or dick, or killer, because for some reason that acronym never crosses his big head, yet after having an Oscar-worthy exchange with Cassie, he ends up giving up his life for the fight in order to redeem himself. I just personally would have double tapped on the forehead because you never know.
No, you can never be too safe.
At this point, Kang realizes if he blasts them one by one, the harder they fall. So off goes the light dude, up goes his ship, and then out of nowhere he gets stopped by ants? ants? The family then drags across the portal as if there's some quantum TSA, leaving Scott to bang it out with Kang.
In the Hot Ones, I didn't eat the chicken wings. I ate cauliflower because I want to support vegetarian. I think it's I think it's a cool thing. Plus, sometimes I get a little weirded out with chicken wings.
Kang immediately curb stomps Ant-Man, and for whatever reason, Scott decides to fight.
Wish me luck.
No, run. I'm worried he's gonna Apollo Creed. They're allowing this exhibition? One slap would have sent him to whatever realm comes after the quantum one. He scooped him up 31 ways, and it's supposed to be even? It's already bad enough that you're introducing the newest villain in a place where he has the upper hand, and there's no casualties? Like Black Panther 2 got rid of 2 main characters. This had 2 senior citizens and everyone came out unscathed.
Oh, we're all gonna die.
Scott ends up going from a fist fight in his first movie to a fist fight in this last one here, which is just you telling me that a random cellmate could even take out Kang. Somehow Kang didn't see the timeline with the reshoot, so Scott is able to trap him inside the core in order to put the biggest and baddest new supervillain in what practically seems like a timeout. Cassie then opens up the signal, and just like that, she's able to easily beam Scotty up.
Sorry, Jimmy. But I have my own family to think about.
Now, in terms of some of the theories for the future, I'd be curious to see what plan this Kang claimed they were seeing, because obviously they could have lied for a bunch of the stuff, but there's this big what-if factor that ends up happening with Scott at the end, which I thought was done very well, and I know they said they cut out a lot of the dramatic parts, and I wish they would have kept them here, because I thought this one was really cool. You know, there's that whole sequence with the possibilities and the heist scene where he kept getting in his own way. That's how he saw it. Hope knew not to get distracted, but the movie even plays with Cassie's biggest fears that she had.
Dad, a guy dressed like a bee tried to kill me in my room when I was 6. I've never had a normal life.
So considering all the talk about the quantum realm giving you these extra powers or even like messing with your mind, I'm curious to see what they're going to take with them. I feel like Cassie's going to be able to communicate with the quantum realm a lot easier now that she's developed a lot of the stuff. Kang also being in the core, I don't know if that means he's going to multiply himself, because they dropped the line about that. They claim the longer you're in the core, the more your mind also becomes undone, so we'll see how that goes.
It's very dangerous, especially on the human mind, so be careful. Time and space work very differently down here.
The first of the after credits has all the Kangs coming together in the Kang Clan Kingdom, and honestly, it was like an old Eddie Murphy movie in there. It also doesn't help that the second one has him looking like the Nutty Professor, but personally, I just hope that we get to see a lot of these variants appear in the other MCU movies. I hope he's able to just appear in a bunch of them, so we don't just get used to the doubles, but we also get to see a lot more of Jonathan Major. But I also wish that they would go crazy with it. Like, let him cross over to DC now that they got an inside man over there. Just fully jump the shark, so when he's really talking about not knowing the difference between multiversal heroes, he means it.
You've made me an Avenger. But hell if you leave, Antman.
The next one seems to be a scene from Loki Season 2, where a variant is presenting his, carousel of progress. And what's crazy is that Ant-Man didn't even get the final text in the movie. Instead, it said that Kang will return, as everyone sat there in the theater, watching an after credit telling them to stay home for the next one.
And that's it's like pickup sticks. It's a tie. It's a tie. It's a tie. Does anyone out there know how to perform rotator cuff surgery?
Thank you all for watching this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Like I said, I'm really excited for what's going to be the Kang Dynasty. I know that Marvel can have its ups and downs, and I'm just sad that they started it with something that sacrificed the drama and the stakes, right? And I don't think funny movies need to do that, but I did feel a lot of that from this one, not to mention that it's just, I don't know, it doesn't hit like a lot of the previous movies have, in my opinion. I also think the grounded nature of having the old crew in the previous 2 movies was definitely missing in this new one. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Anything dealing with this movie, now that they're in the quantum realm, it's exactly what Marvel wants. They don't have to worry about timelines and math, none of it. Like, Janet came out older, but Paul Rudd came out younger. It works whatever way they want. Right? Let me know your thoughts, theories, and anything else dealing with Ant-Man. And until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and Paul Rudd will wink at you tomorrow.
There's different variations.
Yes,
you do kind of like
oh my God, stop.
You know, it's like the casual.